Hello, AP people. Your favorite time is upon us. That's right. It's essay time. It's time to get in with these DBQs. Yes, you will turn them in on time. You know I don't play those games, so don't even play around. This is your guide to helping you through these DBQs. Okay, so I want to break down this DBQ. I want to work through it, and I want to help you kind of get a sense of what it is that you have to do. So we have a DBQ here on Hamilton and Jefferson. Okay, so blah, blah, blah. Let's take a look at the question for analysis. During the Revolutionary Federalist era, politics, parties, programs, policies, and people. It's a lot of P's. How's that for alliteration? Make Quick proud if you know what that means. Made an enormous difference in how the new nation should be structured and run. Examine the documents and then assess the importance of Alexander Hamilton and Thomas Jefferson during the period 1775 to 1810 in the establishment of the new nation. Whose interpretation of the Constitution prevailed? Okay, it's been a little while, so let's go back to this and let's kind of look at this, okay? Remember, the question is the gift. Remember that. They give you everything you need in the question to be successful in answering it. And they give you keys to the question. There's 3 of them. All 3 of them must be present in your thesis. So let's take a look. The Revolutionary Federalist era. It's giving us a period to look at. Politics, parties, programs, policies, and people made a difference in how the new nation should be structured and run. You need to examine the documents, assess the importance of Hamilton and Jefferson during the period in the establishment of the Constitution. Who's prevailed? Okay, so we have the time period. That's the first key. And this is 1775 to 1810. Those dates are important. Okay, 1775 is before the Revolution. All right, 1810 is after the Jefferson presidency. And it's also going to be 6 years after Hamilton is shot by Aaron Burr. That's besides the point. Okay, that's a part of it. Okay, now, how the country should be structured and run. That's an important part, okay? Politics, parties, programs, and policies, and people. That's important. This is getting into the debate. What this is alluding to, politics, parties, Federalists versus Democratic Republicans, which is shorthand for Hamilton versus Jefferson, the leader of the respective political parties. And hat in hand in this, all right, when it talks about programs, we want to be thinking about things like, 1790 and the compromise. That's going to play a role in that. This is a brainstorming thing. Okay, last but not least, interpretation of the Constitution. Seriously, they're giving this to you on a gift. Strict versus loose interpretation of the Constitution. Ring a bell? Okay. Strict interpretation of the Constitution by the letter. If the Constitution doesn't say it, then the government can't do it, right? This is the 10th Amendment, reserving power to the states. All right, loose interpretation, okay? You need to interpret the Constitution so the government can have power. All right, this is the necessary and proper clause. Okay? Got that? Strict interpretation by the letter, reserving power to the states, right? That is the Jeffersonian interpretation. The loose interpretation is the Hamiltonian interpretation. Okay? What do you need for context going into this? Well, this is all about government, right? And making the new government work after independence. And then you can go into the details about why that looked different to different people. Why did it look different for Hamilton? Why did it look different for Jefferson? Why are some people going to be very wary of a powerful federal government? Why are some people going to want a powerful federal government? What's all that going to mean? All right? That's the stuff you should be already unpacking in your heads. And you can pretty much write an introduction pretty much right off the bat. I mean, we do have to look at the documents and see what the documents have and how these things are going to, kind of come about as who's going to prevail. But you pretty much got the sense of that. Document A. Let's take a look at Document A. It is Hamilton. Okay? Hamilton. What do we know about him? Yeah, you know quite a bit about him. He's the Federalist, loose interpretation of the Constitution. Wants a powerful federal government. So let's take a look at what this says. The new Constitution has in favor of its successors these circumstances. A very great influence from the person who framed it, particularly the universal popularity of George Washington. Okay, the Constitution was pretty much written with the idea that George Washington would be the first president. And here you have Hamilton saying that, look, Washington, we love Washington, right? Well, this thing is meant to make sure that guys like Washington can lead. The goodwill of the commercial interests throughout the states. Oh boy, what was one of Hamilton's motivating factors? Oh yeah, he wanted a bank. He wanted to get credit for the nation, the assumption of states' debts, the goodwill of most men of property in the several states. Well, if the country has good credit, then that's going to be pretty good for those who have property, because that means their currency is actually worth something and they can actually invest some money. The hopes that the creditors of the United States that has a general government processing the means of doing and paying the debt of the Union. Okay, he wants the country to have good credit. He's saying this almost from the bat. All right, this is directing you to the Bank of the United States and Hamilton's economic program. New Constitution has against it, so this is what he does not think that the Constitution is good at. The dissent of 2 or 3 important men in the convention, the influence of many inconsiderable men in possession of considerable offices under the state governments, the influence of some considerable men who partly from their motives seek their own aggrandizement and will oppose the Constitution. Basically, he's saying there's people like Jefferson out there that do not agree with the Constitution and fear a strong central government. In the view of the subject, it is difficult to form any judgment whether the plan will be adopted or rejected. If it does not finally obtain adoption, it is probable that the discussion of the question will beget such struggles, animosities, and hates in the community and circumstances conspiring with the real necessity of an essential change in our present situation and will produce civil war. Basically, what he's saying here is that the divisions that existed within the states were very real. Okay? People thought that there were a lot of people who thought, okay, we need a strong government, we need this constitution, we need to safeguard the financial and commercial interests of the country, we need to have a strong government that can actually get something done, but there are these people who are really, really against it. And we got to remember that it took a lot of work to get this Constitution ratified, right? Hamilton and Madison had to write the Federalist Papers. They had to get out there. They had to make sure they got their message across. And on top of that, the Democratic Republicans, the Anti-Federalists at that time, refused to have anything to do with it until there was a Bill of Rights passed along with it, which is what we're going to be getting into now, the life of George Mason. Okay, George Mason is going to be a Democratic Republican. Let's take a look at what he says. There is no declaration, Bill of Rights, and the law is of general government being paramount to the laws of the Constitution of several states. The Declaration of Rights in the separate states are no security. The judiciary of the United States is so constructed as extended as to absorb the judiciary of the several states. The President of the United States has not constitutional counsel, a thing unknown in any safe or regular government. By declaring all treaties supreme laws of the land, the executive and the Senate have, in many cases, the exclusive power of legislation. There is no declaration of any kind for preserving the liberty of the press or of the trial by jury in civil cases, nor in the danger of standing armies. The government will set out a moderate aristocracy and is present, and whether the operation will produce a monarchy, corrupt, tyrannical aristocracy. We have to remember, they just got done fighting a civil war, right? First Amendment, freedom of speech, freedom of the press. That's in the Bill of Rights. This guy is saying there is no Bill of Rights. There is nothing to protect the people from an abusive government. And that's exactly what he's afraid of. He's articulating that there is no Bill of Rights and that he cannot support the Constitution because there is no Bill of Rights. Okay? Debates on the Federalist Constitution. Okay, so now we're getting into the ratification battle. The debate on whether or not the Constitution is a good thing. All right, James Eliot, debates on the federal constitution. This is 1836. This is after the fact. Okay, so this is coming 60 years or 50 years after the Constitution was ratified. Mr. President, I am a plain man, and I get my living by the plow, so he's a farmer. I am not used to speak in public, but I beg of you to leave me to say a few words to my brother plow joggers in the house. Okay, so basically I'm a simple man. I have lived in a part of the country where I have known the worth of good government by the want of it. There was the black cloud of Shays' Rebellion. Oh, do we remember Shays' Rebellion? Oh yeah, the Articles of Confederation weren't working. Massachusetts government was taxing people and taking their farms, so those farmers grabbed their rifles and rebelled. That rose in the east and spread over the west. It brought a state of anarchy. Okay, that's not a good thing. Our distress was so great that we should have been glad to snatch at anything that looked like a good government. Okay, so we know that we needed a new government. Now, Mr. President, when I saw this Constitution, I found that it was a cure for the disorders. Okay, so I saw this Constitution. Okay, this Constitution is good. It will stop Shays' Rebellion. I was just such a thing as I wanted. I don't think worse of the Constitution because lawyers, men of learning, and money men founded it. Okay, basically, we got to remember the Constitution was written in a room that was sealed off from the public, so the ordinary people didn't know what was going on. I say, take this in time. Gather fruit when ripe. There is a time to sow and a time to reap. Biblical references, farming references. We have sowed our seed. We have sent men to the Federal Convention. Now it is the harvest time, and we shall reap the fruit of our labor. And if we don't do it now, I am afraid that we shall never have another opportunity. This guy is in favor of the Constitution. He's a farmer. He's saying, yes, it was written by elites in the Constitutional Convention. The people didn't have a say in it, but you know what? This is a good thing. It's going to stop another Shays rebellion. All right, there was anarchy. Anarchy is not a good thing. We need this. Okay, hey, look, Federalist Paper number 10. Federalist Papers were written in support of the Constitution. They were anonymous letters, mostly by Hamilton and Madison. This one happens to be by Madison. You've already read this, right? This is talking about how the new Constitution will protect against the tyranny of the minority. And basically, that it's going to be a way to moderate the interest of the people so that crazy factions cannot take hold of the country and that cooler heads will prevail because of the federalist system, because there are checks to make sure that incompetent people aren't elected, although the events of 2016 may be a show of otherwise. All right, let's go on, because you already know that one. Document E. Okay, Document E, forget about that one because it's out there, but Document E, campaign poster from 1804. That's when Jefferson was running for re-election as president. That's also the year that, what's-his-face died, Hamilton. All right, Document F. Hamilton on the popular rule. Okay, we know Hamilton, we know everything. This is reprinted in a secondary source. As communities divided themselves into the few and the many, the first are the rich and well-born, the other are the masses of the people. The people are turbulent and changing. They are seldom judged and determined right. Give, therefore, the first class the distinct and permanent share of government. Can a democratic assembly pursue the public good? Nothing but a permanent body can check the imprudence of democracy. Their turbulent and uncontrolling disposition requires checks. Take mankind in general. They are vicious. Their passions may be operated upon. Take mankind as they are. What are they governed by? Their passions. Our prevailing passions are the ambitions of interest, and it will be the duty of a wise government to avail itself from those passions in order to make them subservient to the public good. Okay. Now, I know with Hamilton, we get this rosy picture of Hamilton. You know, he was an immigrant, a self-made man, and everything like that. But Hamilton is an elitist. Let me say that again. Hamilton was an elitist. The last thing that Hamilton wanted to do was having the mass of the people rule the government. Okay? The people are turbulent and changing. They seldom judge or determine what is right. The people don't know what they want. Give, therefore, the first class a distinct and permanent share in the government. The Constitution was created, and Federalist 10 gets into that, where, yes, we have a democracy, but we have a limited democracy. The only part of the government that was directly elected by the people was the House of Representatives. Remember that. And that was done on purpose to make sure that idiots didn't get in charge of the government. I know it doesn't work, but this was the idea. Okay, the idea was that they create a democratic-ish government where people do have a say, but complete idiots don't become the people in charge. I know. It obviously needs some rethinking because it didn't work. We have idiots in charge of the government. I probably shouldn't say that, but oh well. I know, but that was the intention. And Hamilton was afraid of giving the massive amount of the people the power to do such a thing. Here's our friend Jefferson. Okay, this is reprinted in 39. Okay, so Jefferson, this is going to be the other thing. So this is Jefferson on popular rule. This is Jefferson's idea of giving people the power to rule themselves. Those who labor the earth are the chosen people of God. Okay, the farmers are the people that God wants to rule. If they ever had the chosen people who breathes, he has made a particular deposit in substantial and general virtue. Men are naturally divided into two parties, those who fear and distrust people, and those who identify themselves with the people and have the confidence in them. So he's saying, yeah, there's going to be two kinds of people. You got people that don't like other people and think other people are out to get them. And then you have people that think those other people are good, right? This is like that Hobbes-Locke thing. You guys remember that from 10th grade, Hobbes and Locke, where Hobbes thought that, we got to lock our doors because everybody's out to get us, and then John Locke said, you know what, people are basically good. Yeah, it's kind of like the same thing. And Jefferson here is throwing a direct sub at Hamilton, saying Hamilton is one of those guys that doesn't trust people. Well, guess what? I trust people, okay? Cherish and consider them honest, safe, the depository of the public interest. Every government degenerates when trusted to the rulers alone. The people themselves are its only true depositories. So basically he's saying that if you let rulers rule, the rulers are going to rule for the rulers and not for the people. The people are the only ones that can rule for the people. That's what he's saying. When the government are well informed, they can be trusted with their own government. I have great confidence in the common sense of mankind in general. My most earnest wish is to see a Republican element of popular control pushed to the maximum practical exercise. I shall therefore believe that our government may be pure and perpetual. That should be 1816, not 1916. So basically he's saying that government should be ruled by the individual people, not by bureaucrats. A direct sub at Hamilton. Okay, here is a secondary source. This is a scholar that is giving an analysis of Hamilton. Okay, clash over states' rights. So states' rights versus the federal government. This is federalism. Should we have a strong federal government, or should states have the power? A firm union will be the utmost moment of peace and liberty of our states, a barrier against domestic faction and insurrection. We need a strong government to protect against domestic faction and insurrection. Remember Shays' Rebellion? Well, we got to stop that kind of thing from erupting again, and the only way we can do that is to have a strong government. A state government will never be the rival of the power of the general government. State governments are weak. State governments will fight with each other. We need a strong central government. As the destruction of the state governments, the general and real anxiety is to be able to preserve the national government from the too potent and counteracting influences of those state governments. Okay, so we need a strong national government. The states are too weak, hence a deposition on my part towards a liberal construction of the powers of the national government to erect every fence and guard it from the depredations, which is, in my opinion, consistent to the constitutional property. As to any combination of prostrate state governments, I disavow and deny it. He's basically saying you need a strong government in order to protect. Okay? Here's Jefferson. Guess what? He's going to be saying the exact opposite. I am not a friend of a very energetic government. It is always oppressive. Okay? It is always oppressive. Basically, you got to remember, they just got done fighting a strong central government. The last thing he does is want another strong central government. It places the governors, indeed, more at their ease at the expense of the people. If ever this vast country is brought under a single government, it will be the most extensive corruption. So if there is a single government, it is a bad thing. Our country is too large to have all its affairs directed by a single government. The true theory of our government, of our Constitution, of our strict construction, is surely the wisest and best, that the states are independent as to everything within themselves, and united to every respecting foreign nations. Let the general government be reduced to foreign concerns only. We have a federal government because we need a federal government to talk to other governments. That's what he's saying. We don't have a federal government because we need to. The states can take care of their own stuff, leave the federal government. We don't need somebody telling us what to do. And let our affairs be disentangled from those of other nations. And as for our general government, may be reduced to a very simple organization and a very inexpensive one. A few plain duties to be performed by a few servants. I'll give you a quote for Jefferson. The government that governs best is the government that governs least. Okay, Jefferson wants a small central government that only handles what is absolutely necessary. Everything else should be the states. Strict 10th Amendment stuff. Okay? Whereas we saw Hamilton thinks you absolutely need one. Gordon Wood, okay, this is a secondary historian. All right? To base a society on the, this is a historian, he's writing after the fact. This is a secondary source, my bad. To base a society on the commonplace behavior of ordinary people may be obvious and understandable to us today, but it was momentously radical in the long sweep of the world up until that time. In other words, democracy, we think of democracy and we think of people having a say in government. Oh, yeah, that's just the way they did it. Back then, yeah, that didn't happen. Nobody in the world had it. The revolution did not merely create a political and legal environment conducive to economic expansion. It also released powerful popular entrepreneurial and commercial energies that few realized existed and transformed the economic landscape of the country. So basically, the American Revolution is going to unleash people's creativity because people feel free for the first time, and they're going to do things that nobody thought was possible. In short, the Revolution was the most radical and most far-reaching event in American history. The Constitution of the United States was the crown jewel in that momentous revolt. So basically, he's saying that this idea of democracy hadn't been done before, and it was a great success. Oh, and here's Gordon Wood again. So we have another secondary source. Does the proposed Constitution protect the people's liberty? Yes. Federalist Alexander Hamilton. Oh, basically, this is just going over the points of view again. That's kind of redundant. Okay. And here's more from Jefferson. I'll let you onto that. Okay. So you need 7 documents. There's a lot more documents here. You only need 7 to write this essay. So 6 actually. You need to use 6 documents. You have more than enough. Okay? Go back here to the notes that we have. You need to construct a thesis. Okay? And remember to keep it to the time period. And address all parts of the question. You want to get into Hamilton. You want to get into Jefferson. You want to speak through the history. Don't speak through the documents. Let the history speak for you. Don't let the documents do the speaking for you. Okay? Remember to have your rubric involved. You want to have a strong thesis. You want to provide context in terms of what was happening that led up to this stuff. You want to use at least 6 documents in terms of the content that is related to the thesis. You want to look at for sourcing of the documents. What is the point of view of the document? Who is saying it? Why are they saying it? When they're saying it. That should be very easy for this one. And then you need to use at least 4 of them correctly in your analysis. Where it's, remember, this is your voice making an argument, bringing everything back to your thesis. You want to have at least 1 piece of relevant outside information, which should be easy considering everything that we've talked about. And then you want to make sure that everything is related to your thesis to get that final point. All right, people, you have what you need. You have your tools. Now I want you to go and write me some beautiful essays. Enjoy.